Hi, my name is Sabrina Poon. I'm also known as S.poon. I'm a Singaporean filmmaker, and I'll be sharing some of my works with you. To be honest, I actually don't see filmmaking as a very noble career. Uh, if anything, I actually find it quite narcissistic. But because of it being so narcissistic, sometimes we actually present the truest, like the realest characters, the truest experience that we have in our life. And that itself offers a very real and authentic perspective to our audience. This is Sylvia.
我的名字叫 Sylvia。
In the making of Sylvia, because of its own mental health topic, I actually spent about 6 months researching and reading all the different case studies in terms of mental health patients they have to go through themselves, the things that they experience, whether is it post-traumatic stress disorder or like insomnia or paranoia. So with all this in mind, I wanted to create this space so that even as audiences, when we are watching it, we feel the same kind of trepidation that mental health patients themselves have to experience. As we continue to film the visuals itself, for example, frames like this, we, even though it's a white frame, but we kind of like isolate the lead character within a tighter space by herself. So like we kind of like create this kind of like a very tight space for her. This is actually how she's feeling right now. And of course, her looking away kind of implies that she's searching for something. As we go on across to the various scenes that we see in the film, for every scene that you hear this unintended sound, the volume of these sounds that we hear are also increasing. So of course, when we watch the film, as we follow the narrative storyline, the whole idea was to actually immerse yourself within the space, within the story itself. You might not necessarily be able to identify that, oh, this scene has a new sound element that I've never heard from the previous scene, or that it's actually louder this time around. Because as we move forward with the story, the whole idea was to let it come naturally to you, to feel as though you are part of the character, that you are actually experiencing the same kind of paranoia, the same kind of fear that this character is going through. This is Hello Uncle. Hello Uncle, it's a film about the age of loneliness. There's a lot of elderlies, even right now, that are isolated in their little units. So this film is actually a very subtle observation in terms of what is actually happening out there. In order to explain a little bit more about this old man character, this uncle, I had to actually add some things in terms of the space, the set design per se towards the film. Of course, like leaving certain clues as to what's his routine, his lifestyle were like. So actually for this scene, we see him picking up a broomstick and prodding the ceiling again in the middle of the night. We notice that there's actually marks that's already being left here. So which means that it's actually not the first time. It's not only a one-day incident that he has been doing this. So it's kind of his way of like, if he can't sleep at night, or maybe it's rarely at night, he doesn't have anyone else to do it. He would, like, I'll leave it up to the audience to decide whether is it really a noise that is from upstairs, or it's something that he thought he heard from upstairs. Many of us, especially Singaporeans, we probably have been through like this kind of childhood. In primary school or something, we will probably be doing community involvement project that either go around collecting newspaper or like picking up trash at East Coast Park, etc., etc. For this kind of school project that you actually have to be on, when we move on from residence to residence, saying hi, hello auntie, hello uncle, I'm here to do whatever, the moment we take over something from them, be it newspaper, be it maybe unwanted cardboards and everything, we kind of not really care about how are they like, how as a person, what is their story. The elderly and how they are coping is always at the back of my mind. Maybe because my own relationship with my grandmother was very personal, and we're actually very close. It kind of occurs to me that on the days that when I'm working and I don't actually have time for her, like what's her daily routine really like. And to be fair, all of us will be, it's inevitable that we're going to grow old, right? And loneliness it's something that we occasionally cope with even at this age of our life. But imagining us in our 80s or 90s when our circle of friends are getting smaller, or people have moved on, or like have their own kind of little lives, and this piece itself, it's kind of a observation in terms of how harsh reality is. And to be fair, there are times that we really can't do anything about it, but it's actually worth a thought how we want to lead our lives. This is Pa. Pa is a short film that talks about intergeneration relationship. It's also in the perspective of a daughter towards her father, from a young age to herself being an adult, having her family and a kid as well. When it comes to family, the way we communicate with them, the relationship that we have with them, it comes to this point whereby it's so comfortable that we tend to be a bit more straightforward. Actually don't really care about the way we speak to the people that's very close to us, you know. For me, the highlight for making Pa was actually the montage flashback. What's interesting about this particular scene is that it's really a real life experience as when I was a kid. You know, it's kind of like, you know, when you see your dad as a superhero, you kind of like want to be like him. So if his attire is like he's gonna be topless at home, like it's gonna be quite funny. Like, you know, I follow suit exactly like his. Initially, the kitchen here, this part, there wasn't this light. So we added this light in because during that time, it's actually quite common to see this kind of like naked light tubes just at the side of the wall to like lead up this whole dining space. This is a very iconic interior design we have during that time, these tiles at the side. Even though this scene, it doesn't involve in the kitchen, but you know, the things that in the background is also quite important. It's like this part of the little details that we look out for when we are making a film based on a period piece, or like whether the different timeline that we are trying to portray here. As the film ends, and at the very, very last frame, we look back at the father and how he got all teary-eyed just by watching how happy her daughter is with her family. What we really feel is the father's love. Like they are not actually asking for anything much, but rather that as long as you are happy, you are safe, you are comfortable with your family, I think to him that is what happiness is already. I'll say that this street film shows a slice of life within Singapore, but I wouldn't conclude that this is what Singapore has to offer. I think the idea of like Singapore's identity is still very is evolving for sure. If we look at these three films, we talk about varied topics. For me to do all these different films at different points of my life also shows that as we grow, there are different topics that kind of becomes the priorities to each of us. And for me, to make them into films, to make them into short films is just a way of expressing these concerns. For me, making short film, we are kind of like not really restricted to the entertainment value that always ties on to episodic series or like a feature film for box office. For short films and short stories is when we can actually present our truest expression and emotion about the stories that we want to tell. And for me, I consider myself to be someone who will continue be making short film for quite a while. Like even in years to come, I think short film will always be at least a medium that I will always be interested in. to continue telling stories to people.
Recording, market.
Day one. My name is Sabrina Poon and welcome to Disney Channel.